My wife admitted she used me as a backup plan because she was afraid of being alone. Months later, she comes back crying because her ex betrayed her. But my response destroyed her, and she never expected what I told her. I'm 26 years old. I work in digital marketing, and about 6 months ago, my 3-month marriage exploded in the most devastating way you can imagine. And when I say devastating, I don't mean I found suspicious messages or that she was acting weird. No, it was way worse than that. It was hearing with my own ears that I was basically her plan B, her last resort, and that she married me because she was afraid of being alone. Just that simple, and just that brutal. I guess I should start from the beginning. I met Victoria like 3 years ago at a mutual friend's party. She was 21 at the time, I was 23, and honestly, there was immediate chemistry. You know, one of those connections that feel special. She was pretty, smart, studying graphic design, and we had a lot in common. We dated for almost 2.5 years before getting married, and during that time, everything seemed to be going well. I mean, we had our arguments like any couple, but nothing that made me think something was fundamentally wrong. She knew my family, I knew hers. Our friends got along. Everything fit together perfectly. You know? The thing is, Victoria came from a pretty long previous relationship, like 4 years, with a guy named Marcus or something. I never met him, but I knew he existed. She told me they broke up because he didn't want to commit, didn't want to get married or have kids or anything like that, and that she was looking for something more serious. She told me this like a month into us dating, and I understood. Like, we all have a past. It never seemed like a problem to me because she seemed completely over that relationship, never mentioned him, never acted like she missed him. I was happy, and I thought she was too. We got engaged after 2.5 years of dating. It was on a trip we took to the beach. Nothing too elaborate, but romantic. At least I thought so. She said yes, through tears and everything, and we started planning the wedding. We decided on something small, intimate, just close family and friends, because neither of us wanted a giant event, and besides, we didn't have that much budget. The wedding was beautiful. We got married in a garden in spring. She looked gorgeous in her white dress. I was nervous but happy. My parents were excited. Hers too. It was a perfect day, or so I thought. The first months of marriage were, let's say, normal. We moved into a new apartment, a small but comfortable place downtown, close to our jobs. I was still in my marketing position. She had gotten a freelance job in her field that allowed her to work from home. Everything should have been perfect, right? Newlyweds, starting our life together, planning the future. But looking back, I should have seen it coming because there were signs. Small things that at the moment I didn't pay attention to, but that now make sense. Victoria started being more distant, like in the second month of marriage. It wasn't anything dramatic, like she didn't stop talking to me or anything like that, but I did notice she was spending more time on her phone, that sometimes she seemed distracted when I talked to her, that she stayed up late working, or at least that's what she said. I mentioned it to her a couple times, asked her if everything was okay, and she always said yes, that she was just stressed with work, that adjusting to living together was harder than she thought. I understood because, honestly, I was also adjusting to cohabitation. It's different when you only see each other on weekends than when you live with someone 24/7, you know what I mean? Then, we get to that day. It was a normal Tuesday. I remember it was Tuesday because I had an early meeting that morning, and I left the house quickly. But I forgot my laptop in the apartment, and my boss was asking me for some files I had saved there, so I had no choice but to go back around 10 in the morning. I opened the door quietly because I didn't want to startle Victoria if she was concentrating on work, and I heard her voice coming from the bedroom. She was talking on the phone, and her tone was, I don't know, like more animated than normal, more relaxed. I wasn't going to listen. Seriously, it wasn't my intention. But then I heard my name and I froze right there in the entrance. Victoria was saying, "No, Thomas was never my first choice. You know that, Sarah." And I thought, what? I moved closer to the bedroom door, which was slightly open, and kept listening because I literally couldn't move. She continued, I mean, he's a good guy. I don't deny that. But I married him because I was 24, and all my friends were already married or engaged, and I had just gotten out of that long relationship with Marcus that led to nothing. I was afraid of being alone. You understand? Thomas was my last option. My backup plan. You know what it feels like to hear something like that? It's like having a bucket of ice water thrown on you, but at the same time, you feel like you're burning inside. I stood there, listening to my wife, the woman I'd been married to for 3 months, tell her friend that I was her last resort, her plan B because she was afraid of loneliness. I kept listening. I couldn't leave it there. I needed to know more even though it was destroying me. Victoria said something like, "I don't know if I did the right thing, Sarah. Sometimes I look at him and feel like I'm living a lie, but, oh well, I already got married. I guess I have to make it work." I think I stood there for like 5 more minutes, in complete silence, while she kept talking to her friend about trivial things, about work and life. When she hung up, I went into the bedroom. Victoria was sitting on the bed with her laptop, and when she saw me, she was surprised. She asked me what I was doing there, that she thought I was at work, and I just told her, "I came for my laptop, but I heard your conversation." Her face completely transformed. She went pale, like all the blood drained from her face in 2 seconds. She tried to explain herself immediately. Started saying it wasn't what I thought, that she was venting to her friend, that the words sounded worse than they were. And I just asked her, "Is it true? Am I your last option? Did you marry me because you were afraid of being alone?" And she went quiet. That silence told me everything I needed to know, but I still waited for her to answer. Finally, she said, "Thomas, I love you. I really love you." But yes, I was afraid. I was afraid that time would pass me by, and I'd be alone forever. "You're good to me. You're stable. You're everything I'm supposed to want. Everything I'm supposed to want." Those words stuck with me. I asked her directly, "Do you love me? Do you really love me, or are you just with me because I'm convenient?" And Victoria started crying. Through tears, she told me she didn't know, that she was confused, that she thought over time she would completely fall in love with me, but she wasn't sure if that had happened. I felt, literally, like I'd been kicked in the stomach. I told her, "We've been together for almost 3 years, Victoria. 3 years, and you're telling me you've never been sure of your feelings?" She tried to touch me, put her hand on my arm, and I pulled away. I couldn't. I couldn't let her touch me at that moment because I felt like I was going to explode. I asked her about Marcus. I asked her if she still thought about him, if I was just a replacement because he didn't want what she wanted. And Victoria went quiet again, which was basically a confirmation. Then she admitted that yes, sometimes she thought about what things would have been like if Marcus had wanted to get married, but that didn't mean she didn't value what we had. And I told her, "You value having me as your plan B? You value me being your emotional safety net?" The argument lasted like 2 hours. It was horrible, we both cried. She apologized 1,000 times, said she had made a mistake, that she should have been honest from the beginning. I asked her if she ever planned to tell me the truth, or if she was going to keep pretending her whole life. She didn't know what to answer. Finally, I told her I needed space, that I couldn't be in that apartment at that moment. I grabbed my things and went to my older brother's house, who lives like half an hour away. I didn't tell him everything right away, just told him Victoria and I had a serious fight, and I needed a place to stay for a few days. I spent like a week at my brother's house, thinking, processing, trying to understand how we got to that point. Victoria called and texted me every day, telling me we needed to talk, that we could fix this, that she really wanted to try. But I didn't know if I believed her. How do you trust someone after something like that? How do you accept that the person you married basically chose you by default? I couldn't get it out of my head. The exact words she used, last option, backup plan, that wasn't something you could misinterpret. It was pretty clear. I finally agreed to see her. We met at a coffee shop near the apartment, a neutral place where there were people around, because honestly, I didn't trust how either of us would react if we were alone. Victoria arrived with swollen eyes. She looked terrible, and part of me felt sorry, but another part was too angry to care. She sat across from me and started talking before I could say anything. She told me she had been thinking a lot, that she understood why I was furious, that there was no excuse for what she had done. I asked her what she wanted, what she expected from that conversation. and she told me she wanted to save the marriage, that she was willing to go to therapy, to work on her problems, to be honest from now on. I asked her the same thing I had asked her in the apartment. Do you love me? And this time her answer was different but equally devastating. She said, I don't know, Thomas. I wish I could tell you yes with complete certainty, but I can't. I think I care about you a lot. I think I could come to love you the way you deserve. But right now, I don't know. And that's when I knew it was over. You can't build a marriage on maybes, and possibly, and I don't know. I told her I appreciated her honesty, finally, but that I couldn't continue with this. That I loved her, or at least loved the person I thought she was, but that I wasn't going to stay in a relationship where I was the last-minute option. That I deserved to be with someone who chose me first, not because time was running out or she was afraid of being alone. Victoria cried a lot, begged me to reconsider, but I had already made my decision. I told her we were going to separate and that I was going to start the divorce process. She couldn't believe it was so fast. We'd only been married 3 months, but I explained to her that precisely because of that, it was better to end it now than let it drag on for years in a farce. We agreed that I would stay at my brother's house while we got my things out of the apartment and made the legal arrangements. The divorce itself wasn't complicated because we had no kids, we had no joint properties. Basically, we just had to divide the apartment stuff and sign papers. The next 2 months were weird. We talked only as necessary, through messages or emails, coordinating who was going to keep what, how we were going to end the apartment lease, that kind of practical stuff. I threw myself into work, trying to distract myself, and my friends supported me a lot, although I still hadn't told them the full details. They only knew that Victoria and I were getting divorced, and that it had been a mutual decision, which was partially true. Then, like a month and a half into our separation, a mutual friend, David, called me to ask how I was doing. We were talking for a while, and eventually he mentioned he had seen Victoria with someone, a guy who seemed to be her ex. I told him he was probably seeing things, but David insisted he was sure that he had seen them at a restaurant and they seemed pretty close, and that's when it clicked. I asked him what the guy looked like, and his description matched the little I knew about Marcus. I didn't want to be that person who stalks or investigates, but curiosity was killing me. I sent Victoria a message directly asking her if she was dating anyone. She took like 4 hours to respond, and when she did, she told me yes, that she had reconnected with her ex and they were seeing if they could try again. I was, literally, in shock. Not because I cared that she was dating someone. Technically, we were in the process of divorce, but because of the timing. I asked her when she had started talking to him again. Her answer was vague. She said they had started talking a few weeks ago. But something didn't add up, so I kept pressing. She finally admitted that she had actually reconnected with Marcus during our marital problems, basically when she started being distant, those 2 months before I overheard her conversation. So, she was talking to her ex while we were married, while I thought she was just stressed with work. Can you believe it? I called her out via message, told her it was incredible that on top of everything she had done, she had also been emotionally cheating on me. She defended herself, saying nothing physical ever happened, that they only talked as friends, that Marcus contacted her to see how she was and things developed naturally. But to me it didn't matter if it was physical or not. The point is, she was emotionally investing in another person while I was trying to make our marriage work. I told her I didn't want to know anything more, that we should finish the divorce as quickly as possible and everyone move on with their lives. The divorce was finalized like 4 months after the day I heard that phone conversation. It was fast, considering some divorces take years. We signed the papers, divided the little we had to divide, and we officially stopped being married. I felt weird, like it was a mix of relief and sadness. Relieved because I no longer had to deal with the uncertainty and pain of being with someone who didn't really choose me, but sad because I had lost 3 years of my life and had to admit my marriage had been a failure. I moved into my own apartment, a small studio but enough for me. I started therapy because I needed to process all this with a professional, not just with my friends and family. My therapist helped me understand that none of this was my fault, that I hadn't done anything wrong by falling in love and marrying someone I thought felt the same way. That Victoria was the one who had to work on her own problems and fears. She helped me rebuild my self-esteem, which, honestly, was at rock bottom after finding out I was someone's plan B. Like 2 more months passed. I was starting to feel better, going out more with friends, focusing on my work, which was going very well. I even started going to the gym to channel my energy. And then, out of nowhere, Victoria sent me a message. Not just a message, like a whole long paragraph saying she needed to talk to me, that she had made the biggest mistake of her life, that Marcus had turned out to be the same person as always, and that she finally understood what she had lost. At first, I ignored the message. I didn't want to reopen that door. But she insisted for several days, calls, more messages, until I finally agreed to see her, just to have closure once and for all. We met at a park near where we used to live together. Victoria looked different. I don't know, like younger, more vulnerable. She sat on the bench next to me and started telling me the whole story. Turns out Marcus, supposedly the love of her life, had gone back to being the same as always. At first everything was perfect, as it usually is, but after 2 weeks he started with the same old excuses, that he wasn't ready to commit, that he wanted to take things slow. All those vague phrases people use when they don't really want to be with you but also don't want to let you go completely. And the worst part, Victoria discovered that Marcus was dating another girl, at the same time, a co-worker he apparently had something with since before they reconnected. She told me all this through tears, expecting me to feel sorry, I guess. She told me she had realized that I was the good one, that I was the one who really loved her and treated her well, that Marcus only played with her, that she had been a fool for getting carried away by nostalgia and what could have been, that if I gave her a chance, she would really value me this time, that it would be different. And I just sat there, listening to her, and all I felt was a mix of sadness for her and relief that it was no longer my problem. I told her, "Victoria, do you realize what you just did? You came here to tell me that now you do want me, now that the guy you left me for failed you. Don't you see the pattern? I'm still your plan B. I'm still the one who's there when things don't work out with your first choice." She tried to say it wasn't like that she had matured, that she had learned her lesson, but I didn't believe her anymore. I told her, "Look, I hope you find what you're looking for. I really hope so, but it's not going to be with me. I'm not going to be your safety net every time someone else doesn't work out. I deserve to be with someone who chooses me first, who doesn't have to lose me to realize what they had. And you deserve to work on yourself and understand why you keep seeking validation from people who don't value you." Victoria cried a lot, asked me to reconsider, not to be cruel. And I explained to her that I wasn't being cruel. I was being realistic. That love isn't enough if it comes from a place of desperation or fear. That she needed to learn to be alone before she could truly be with someone. I got up from the bench and said goodbye. She tried to hug me, but I just shook her hand, like a formal goodbye, and left. As I walked back to my car, I felt something weird, like a mix of closure and liberation. I had spent months feeling like trash, wondering what I had done wrong, why I wasn't enough, and in that moment I understood it was never about me. It was about Victoria and her own problems, her fears, her inability to be alone or make decisions for the right reasons. I didn't do anything wrong by loving her, by committing, by getting married thinking it was forever. She was the one who made decisions based on fear and not on love. Today, like 6 months after all this, I'm in a much better place. I'm still in therapy, working on myself, learning to trust again, although it's difficult. I went on a couple dates with other people, but nothing serious yet, and that's okay. I'm in no rush. I've learned it's better to be alone and at peace than to be with someone who makes you doubt your worth. My family and friends have supported me, incredibly, especially my brother, who let me stay with him all that time without asking questions until I was ready to talk. Sometimes I wonder if Victoria found what she was looking for. If she finally learned her lesson? I don't know, and honestly, I don't care that much anymore. I blocked her social media months ago because I don't need to know what she's doing or who she's with. That part of my life closed, and I'm okay with that. I know that eventually I'm going to meet someone who chooses me first, who has no doubts, who wants to be with me for who I am and not because I'm convenient or safe. What I did learn from all this is to listen to my intuition. Those little signs I ignored at the beginning: Victoria's distance, the extra time on the phone, the lack of real connection. They were warnings. I decided not to see because I was in love and optimistic. Next time I'm going to pay more attention. I also learned that the time you spend with someone doesn't mean anything if that person was never really there with you. 3 years can evaporate in a second when you discover it was all an illusion. And I guess that's it. I'm 26 years old, I'm divorced, and starting over. It's not where I thought I'd be at this age, but it's not the end of the world either. There's something liberating about knowing I already went through the worst and came out the other side. That I had the courage to choose myself when someone else didn't. That counts for something, doesn't it?